in the discussion, we will discuss about human capital investment. Human capital investment is a discussion about understanding the stock of laborers based on their level of skills and knowledge available to the economy. And this is not just about having productive pool of workers. The idea of human capital is also important in ensuring social, environmental, and sustainable prosperity of the economy. Because when people are having good level of education, they are not just productive, but it is expected that their level of social engagement also will be more civilized. From an Islamic perspective, since the very beginning of the revelation during the time of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the main mission of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and among the objectives of Sharia itself is to provide education to mankind, education in the context of knowing who is the Creator, the attributes of the Creator, and how to worship the Creator. That is the core of the objective of the Sharia. And then also knowledge so that mankind are guided to do good things in life and to avoid evils in life. Knowing good and bad, that's part of why we have Sharia. In other words, Sharia represents knowledge, not just religious knowledge, but any form of knowledge that would be beneficial for man to thrive in this life and also in the next life. So the teaching of Islam basically provides man with a proper concept of human development through the development of insan, from human being who are controlled by his nafsul ammara, the soul that is full of mischief, misdeeds, evils, and so on, to upgrading the soul to the level of nafsul lawamah and the highest of nafsul mutmainnah. That's how we look at the process of human development from an Islamic perspective. We take into account the importance of revealed books, Al-Quran and the Sunnah of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and also other form of knowledge. In the context of human capital investment that we will learn in this chapter, this is more about knowledge that could provide workers in particular or human being as a whole to acquire certain skills and knowledge. And the main reason from a secular economic perspective why there is a need to invest in human capital is for the economic returns. And this concept of economic returns, later we can divide them into two major categories: the private return to education and then the social return to education. Therefore, we can say here that people bring into the labor market unique sets of skills and knowledge, therefore their abilities, and this level of differences would later contribute to different level of returns to the efforts by every individual. Some scholars are quite sensitive to use the word human capital because to some of these scholars, associating human to capital here is like making human being to be similar to other factors of production. Whereas, as I briefly mentioned earlier, Islam puts human development as central so that human being can realize their true potential of why they are sent to this world. That is, to do two important things as Allah mentioned in Al-Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And Allah did not create jinn and mankind except to be the true worshipper of Him, Allah, and then to play the role in this world as the Khalifah on earth. So we can say that whatever knowledge that we get is to make human being realize who is the true God and how to worship the true God. And then using the knowledge also we need to develop the world according to the sovereign will of the Creator. That's from an Islamic perspective. However, in the conventional context, most of the focus about human capital argument is about how to make human being to be a productive workers. So, workers add to their stock of human capital by their life experiences, especially through job experience, and also through formal education. One central argument in this chapter is to understand how education is crucial for human beings to improve their skills and knowledge so that they become a productive member of the society, especially through formal education. Over here, we find that education is strongly correlated with, number one, labor force participation rates. The formula to calculate labor force participation rate is equal to labor force over the working age population. So talking about labor force participation rate, over the past 50 years, female labor force participation rate has shown a steady increase over the decades, and one of the main contributor is because of more women now are educated. So here we see the strong correlation between education and labor force participation rate. Number two, there is also high correlation between education and unemployment rates. And this correlation is usually negative. Highly educated workers, they are less likely to be unemployed. So therefore, education is important in protecting workers from being the victim of economic recession. There is also a high correlation between education and the level of earnings. And the third point here is the main point that we will see in the argument about why we need to invest in human capital. The argument is as follows. When we invest in human capital now, this will equip us with certain skills and knowledge. With certain skills and knowledge, the worker then become more productive, and productive workers are entitled for better earnings. That's the chain of argument when we relate between education and level of productivity. We can talk about real earnings or nominal earnings, but I hope you know by now what's the difference between the two. We also will look at how education will influence the age earning profile of a worker. Over here, we will see how the wage profile over the worker's working life. The first part of the discussion here is how we can understand the concept of investment in human capital. So we will borrow a concept from finance, the idea of present value calculation. I think most of you should know the concept of present value of money. So this is the formula on how we can calculate the present value. It is equal to PV for present value equal to Y. Y is the future value of future earning divided by 1 plus R to the power of T. So R here refers to the per period discount rate. Y is the future value and T is the number of time periods. From that formula, we can say that the quantity of PV or present value tell us about how much needs to be invested today in order to have Y dollars in the next T time period. So when we look at this formula, we can say that a future payment of Y dollars is discounted so as to make it comparable to the current dollars. So that's the idea of this formula. In this diagram, we want to understand the potential earnings streams faced by a high school graduates as compared to college graduates. Let's look at the label for this diagram. The vertical line measures the dollar value of the investment in education, and the horizontal axis measure the age of the workers. And we can say that this diagram represents the age earning profile of this worker. It shows the path over the life cycle. And we look at the investment in human capital starting from the age of 18 years old. Why we pick 18 years old? Because education from 7 years old up until 15 years old, those are mandatory level of education. So we don't consider that to be as an investment because that's mandatory in this modern period. 16, 17, this is upper secondary level, which is now universal, meaning that many students would continue up until they finish the high secondary school. So the idea of investment in human capital would start from the age of 18. Many people need to decide whether they want to stop their formal schooling and join the job market, or they want to continue with their education. Let's consider the first path for this person. Let's say that the individual quit schooling after high school. In other words, that individual joined the job market at the age of 18. And over here, we assume that over the person's life cycle, he or she would earn WHS level of earning. We assume that the earning level over the life cycle is constant at WHS. HS stands for high school qualification. So this is the earning path for this individual with only high school qualification. On the other hand, the same person may have the option to delay joining the job market at the age of 18 years old and may want to continue with college degree. The person goes to college or university. If that's the decision, at the age of 18 years old, that individual would need to incur some costs for his college education. There are two types of costs incurred. The first part of the cost is the tuition cost, the direct cost involved, indicated by this area, this rectangle, which represent the direct costs, such as the tuition fees, books, spending in college, and so many things. And let's say it takes that person up until 4 years to complete his college education from the age of 18 to the age of 22. So below here, this rectangle shows the direct costs, and over here, this rectangle over here is the indirect costs incurred by that person. What type of indirect costs? Costs such as the foregone earning. And our reference for the foregone earning is the high school wage level. Now, after the person has completed his college education, at the age of 22 years old, he would earn WCOL, indicating the college level of wage. This is the earnings for college qualified individual. And again, here we assume that the earning path for this person is constant over his life cycle. We see that there is a gap between those with college degree and those with high school qualification. Over here, we find that education does provide some advantages to those who has higher level of it. And we want to understand how to make that decision on investing in education. From our earlier understanding about the formula to calculate the present value of money, now we want to bring that understanding to compute the present value of each earning profile based on our diagram earlier. So the present value of the earning stream, if the worker gets only high school education, is shown by equation 7.4 over here. So what we see here is, to know the present value of those with only high school qualification, it is given by the wage rate of those with high school qualification plus the wage rate of the high school over 1 plus r to the power of 1 plus the wage rate of high school education over 1 plus r to the power of 2 up until wage rate of high school qualified workers over 1 plus r to the power of 46. Why 46? Because 65 minus 18, we have 47, but because there are 46 periods between 18 to 65. And for the first term here, actually this is over 1 plus r to the power of 0, because anything with the power of 0 is equal to 1. So therefore we just write WHS over here. So this is the general formula if we want to calculate the present value of workers with only high school qualification. R represents the workers' rate of discount. I will discuss more about the rate of discount in other slides, but at the moment, just take R as the rate of discount. In contrast, if we want to calculate the present value of those with a college qualification, there are two parts in the equation here. The first one is the period when the individual is investing in his or her education. We are looking at the period where the person from the age of 18 up until the age of 22 attending college education. So these are the costs, the direct costs of attending college. In this formula, it only considers the direct cost of attending college. The formula ignores the indirect costs or the opportunity costs. So again, we use the present value formula. For the first term, we have negative H. H here to denote the direct cost of attending college. Minus, this is the next term. Because there are 4 intervals in which the individual stay in college to obtain the degree. So we have 4 terms here. These are all negatives because they are costs. And then that individual only able to recoup the investment made at the later age from the age of 22 up until the retirement age. So again, over here, we just continue with the remaining periods from the 4th interval up until the 46th interval. Over here, we are considering the college level of earnings. So this is how we calculate the post-college earning stream. What we want in this case is to make sure that the post-college earnings to be more than the direct cost of attending college. Then only you have a positive returns to your investment. Moving to the next slide, from the diagram and from our observation, we find that those with college qualification would earn more than those with only high school qualification. Why? Because those highly educated are considered more productive and skilled. This is the common assumption made based on this theory. And another logical economic reason is those with high qualification deserve to earn more to compensate them for their earlier investment in the college degree or university degree. That's another reason why they get better earnings than those with less qualification. Now let's discuss the demand for a college education. We want to understand why people invest in college education or universities level education. The first reason is that people believe they will be better off by going to university or college. Better off here refers to the context of better earnings for those with college qualification as compared to high school qualification. That's one aspect. There are also people who consider college as consumption goods, where some people like the college lifestyle. And this second point may now is changing due to the COVID-19 situation. COVID-19 has changed many aspects of our normal life, including the university or college lifestyle. I'm not sure whether many young people like you would consider college lifestyle is that attractive anymore given the current context. Yeah, in the normal context, we could say that when we go to college, we have certain level of freedom. We can feel the freedom as a young adult. So that could be attractive to some people, and that's why they go to college. These are two reasons, right? So we have discussed about the earning path between those with college qualification and high school qualification. Moving to this slide, predictions of the theory that we have seen in the diagram. We find that the present-oriented individual usually this individual will have high level of discount rate. These individuals are less likely to go to college than the future-oriented individuals. The future-oriented individuals will have smaller rate of discount because they believe their future earnings is high, they put less discount on their future earning. The second prediction of the model is that more college students are young people. The logic of the second prediction is that when you are still young, you have more time to recoup the benefits of your early investment in life, where you spend 3 or 4 years in your college or university. Just imagine if at the age of 25, you already have your PhD and you enter the job market starting with a salary of a PhD holder. So you have more time to recoup that investment returns as compared to those who get their degree at a much later age. Let's say someone may only get the first degree at the age of 40 years old. That's too short of time for the person to recoup the investment. Therefore, we predict that more college students are young people. Number 3, college attendance will increase if there is a reduction in the cost of education. Yeah, because among other things that people need to consider when they want to invest in human capital is the cost of attending college. If this cost can be reduced, we can expect or we can predict that college attendance would increase. Remember that in Malaysia, especially during the election time, some political parties would bring the manifesto to provide free tertiary education. So we can say that if that's becoming reality, we can predict much higher college attendance or much higher people would demand to attend college. Number 4, the prediction says that college attendance would also increase if the gap between the earnings of high school and college graduates are wider. The last point here refers to the difference between W college and W high school. The larger the gap between the two, the more likely that we will see more college attendance. But if the gap between degree holder and high school qualification worker is small, that would not be an attractive motivation for people to consider investing in college qualification. So I think that's for the session. I'll see you again with other discussion. Thank you. Wassalam.